Corporation from Outer Fargo, Brinkley area. I'm located in the Forest City office, 831 Washington Street. So today we are here for a workshop, give you information, a wealth of information that I think that you will be benefiting from. So we're going to get started with opening that we're going to let Doc do that. But however, we have a welcome by Mayor Christopher Franklin. Now, West Helena, give him a hand.
Good morning. Good morning. I'd like to just welcome you all to our city, and I think this is a great event to have, and I look forward to doing more of these in the city to educate our people about our public land, and you know, it's just something. I just think that it's something good to fellowship and get some understanding on what you all do to better help us. I got our human resource specialist, Ms. Linda Coates here, so that she can share some of this information with our city employees that didn't get a chance to attend. So I welcome this, and I think this is a good thing for our community and county. So I just whatever y'all have planned, I'm gonna stay and listen, but I will have to leave. Ms. Coates will continue, but I have another meeting. But I'm just glad that Dr. King and everybody is here to give us some information on this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Franklin. Next, we're going to have in the program, we have one USDA urban and rural going to be presented by our own president and CEO, Dr. Calvin King Sr.
First of all, let me say good morning to everyone. I really appreciate all of you coming out to be a part of the event. Helena, West Helena is not new to me. I grew up in the adjoining county, Lee County, and of course, you know, out in the country, on the rural country person, all my life, still living in the country, out on our family farm. And of course, Helena, West Helena, in my youth and growing up was always the place that, you know, when we had a chance, they would say back in the day, you know, we're going to go to town. So when we would come to town, we'd be coming to Helena, West Helena a lot of times for shopping and things of that nature. And of course, my father pastored for years in the Helena, West Helena area, in Phillips County, at least in Oneida. And also, he pastored at Morning Star here in the Helena, West Helena area for a number of years also. But as far as my point of opening regarding the meeting, we're going to cover a lot of the time period we have for this particular event. We will not be able to do everything that is necessary, possibly as it relates to the information being provided, but we provide you enough information where you will have the capacity to do follow-up, either directly back with our office or back with the various resource agencies that are present here. Areas that we'll talk about, and as Mr. Williams gave reference to the one USDA, we say one USDA because USDA is a major resource for rural communities, for rural small towns, for rural areas just in general. You name it, for the most part, USDA have the resources that can be beneficial in almost any direction or area that you may want to go into. It's not just about production agriculture, but from a production, I'm just saying this, USDA has an impact on everyone's lives in some form or fashion. It has an impact on everyone's lives. From an environmental perspective, from a food safety and security perspective, and you know, we all are consumers from a food perspective. It also has resources and opportunities available. You know, if you're dealing with going into business, if you're either into agriculture or rural business enterprises in general. It's not just agriculture as a whole, but any particular type of business enterprise. You know, we have with us USDA Natural Resource Conservation Services. And I know it's not coming up, years back, that was an agency that I really didn't know a lot about, and I farmed myself for 20 years. It used to be called ASCS, Agricultural Stabilization Conservation Service. Am I right? I did get it right, right? That's sort of the history of the agency itself. And then, of course, some people still relate to USDA that used to cover two agencies and called Farmers Home Administration. Now, they'll say, well, yeah, I know about Farmers Home Administration. Of course, Farmers Home Administration restructured back in the 80s. And during that restructuring process, they then came out with what is now USDA Rural Development and USDA Farm Service Agency. And of course, each one of the agencies that I've given reference to have a different set of type of resources that's available to you in different areas. And in a lot of cases, the agencies partnership. Some of the agencies enter into partnership arrangements or working process in order to maximize the benefit of the opportunities that they offer to you, particularly when you look at Farm Service Agency and Natural Resource Conservation Service. So that from it, I'm just going to go from my opening on into what all we're going to talk about today. One, from the natural resource conservation perspective, we'll talk about the program opportunities they have to offer to you from a financial assistance perspective in opportunities, resource opportunities, financial assistance, and I say financial assistance because basically all of USDA natural resource conservation services opportunities are offered in by way of financial assistance that's not a loan. They don't call them grants. They call them financial resource or financial assistance, which means that the resources they make available it's not where you have to pay these dollars back, but it definitely enhances an overall farming operation, and it also expands the opportunity that one may want to take advantage of if they are looking at possibly becoming what is now known as micro-urban farms. And a lot of individuals, when they think about farming, they're thinking about 100 acres, 200 acres, 40 acres, 1,000 acres, 10,000 acres, more or less now or more. But in the 2018 Farm Bill, they introduced what is now known as the urban farm. And that basically means you can have a lot, or you may have a home site that maybe a half an acre, quarter of an acre or more. It could be less than that. But you can establish that particular piece of real estate as a farm. You can establish it as a farm and have access to the financial assistance and resources that's available through natural resource conservation services, through farm service agency as well. Those two primary agencies and how you access those particular resources. Now, from the urban farm perspective, then you have USDA Farm Service agencies that have now, and they'll talk about that, they have loan assistance where individuals say, okay, well, I do want to get into farming. I have these two lots or two areas here that I can rent or that I'm renting now, and I'm raising a garden on. Well, that garden can become, will be a farm once you follow the instructions of the agencies that are here now, and you can access other resources that can be beneficial to you with one, it becoming a farm, and then two, enhancing the overall capabilities of that small piece of land. They'll talk about what that consists of, both from a resource perspective and from a program perspective, and what they offer to you as an individual and others that you may know from a urban farm perspective, and some say micro farm, small micro farm. Now I gave reference to a lot, but it does not have to necessarily be a lot. It can be much smaller than that. But if you can have, it could be the size of this room or less. It could be half the size of this room. But they give you the details, in reference to that. On the Farm Service Agency side, again, that's the financing arm. And when I say the financing arm, the financial system from that perspective, they don't give away no money. You have to pay theirs back. But they'll talk about the program and loan opportunities that they offer. But they do offer a program that they have two sides to the organization. They have both the program side and then they have the financing arm side. On their program side, normally in most cases, those are opportunities and financial support or assistance that is not assistance, but resources that are offered and dollars that you're not paying back, but to be supportive in certain cases, particularly when it comes down to risk management, that's definitely involved in dealing with farming. No matter what size the farm is, it could be the micro-urban farm, it could be a 20,000 acre farm, it could be a 100 acre farm, it could be a 40 acre farm. And they will talk about that, everything from the Conservation Reserve Program to other areas that they have as well on the program side. And then the other will be on the financing side and the type of loan system that they will offer to you, or that they offer to you, have available to you. Then you have USDA rural development. You know, I've said this many times before in other meetings, that USDA rural development could really build an entire city, an entire community. And trust me, they have those type of resources and that much diversity in the type of resources they offer. Housing is one area. They have housing programs both on the financing from a loan perspective. They have housing programs and how they provide assistance for individuals for rehabbing homes by way of grant. And then they have housing assistance by way of financing that's very affordable as it relates to financing on the loan side. It makes it very affordable to rehab homes or bring them up to par where there are specific needs that exist as it relates to a particular residence. Now, the other area is in the business area. You know, they provide resources for individuals who have an interest either in expanding that business and creating job opportunities. Two categories. One is on the grant side, the other one is on the loan side. And they'll give you more details from a programmatic perspective, how those programs work. If they don't talk about it, then I'll come back to provide additional information as it relates to those resources and how to access those resources either from the state level or from the local office. An area that we want to talk about also is going to be air poverty. All of you know, air poverty can be a very challenging situation if it exists with your family. As an individual, I come from a large family, a total of 11 children. I'm number 11. And I'm that number, and of course, growing up on a farm, and my parents who have now deceased, you know, they left assets, land assets to us. But you know, we're very fortunate, you know, as children. You know, they had the foresight to know and to understand, and I really have a great appreciation for that now, to have a will which they live in will, they converted to a trust. You know, I am the administrator of that particular family trust, have been for some 31 years now. We still maintain the farming operation. We also maintain our homestead, our home, as a guest living quarters for visitors. So whenever my sisters come home, then I live next door. Then they always have a place to stay. So whenever we have not just sisters, but nieces, nephews, and others, then it is offered to family members who want to come back to the area, who may have grown up in the area, and they want to come back to visit and spend some time in the home area, visit some friends, or maybe for a particular event, if it's a class reunion and things of that nature. So we do that. But air property can be very, very challenging. Air property is challenging to the extent that it will challenge a family to the maximum. It will challenge them to the maximum on a family's ability to get along.
Yes.
On a family's ability to get along. And it is amazing. Again, I've been doing this for quite some time. It is amazing why some family members And I don't care who it is. Why you just can't get along? Why you just can't get along and come together and say, we're gonna do this in a business fashion because it's in the best interest. It's in the best interest of us as a family, and it is in the best interest of us for retaining this property. That was an old law. And I saw it took place in Phillips County, some of my experiences, but all throughout Arkansas. Under the old law, if air property was left and an individual purchased the smallest amount of interest in that property, then they would petition the court. And I used to call them land speculators. And African Americans lost a lot of land that way. They would petition the court. And then from that process, the land went to the auction block. It was sold off to the highest bidders. And unfortunately, in most cases, the experiences and those, some cases that we worked on, we were able to actually retain it, and it did not get sold. But in most cases, the land is sold because the family cannot or have not dealt with a plan or process in putting together the resource to be able to save that farm, to save that land. And of course, the ones who petition the courts that's forced to sell normally has made a plan and had access to the financing and knew how they were going to bid and how much they were going to bid. And there will be individuals that end up owning the land or owning the farm. But we've lost a lot of land that way. Under the new law, which we worked on for 20 years, and it finally passed. But under the new law, it is called the Unified Air Property Act. Now, under the Unified Air Property Act, and I will discuss this more in detail, particularly any questions that you have, under the Unified Air Property Act, it means that any individual who want to sell their interest in the land or in the air property, they must first offer it to the other heirs who do not want to sell at the appraised value. So again, we can talk about that, in more detail, as well as the possibilities or ways to deal with what I call resolution to any conflict that individuals may be having as it relates to an air property situation. Air property can also be a barrier for you. It can be a barrier for you when it comes down to land itself and being able to access some of the resources that can be very beneficial for all the family members or all those maybe heirs, with the property. Yeah, we'll come back and we'll talk more about that in relation to air property and what one might do that will be in the best interest of all the heirs in an effort to access other resources that can be beneficial for you, particularly when it comes down to creating what I call added value to that real estate. And I'm going to give you a quick example. In Lee County, the last time I checked, the average price, market price for farmland irrigated was about $4,500 an acre. Now, if it's not irrigated land, it's roughly $2,500 to $2,800 an acre. That gives you an example. Well, the agencies that are here today do offer financial assistance for individuals to be able to get irrigation on their land. So that's just one example, as well as other programs you can put it into, and there's a price difference when it comes down to irrigated versus non-irrigated as well. Another area that I like to talk about is the drone. We have a drone program, and particularly those who may be farming and those that who are farming and may be raising livestock. But we've been using drones as part of a demonstration in running livestock operations, how it can make it more economically feasible for you in operating your livestock operation, as well as for other purposes of dealing with crop production. And crop production, if you making an assessment of your overall farming operation, the plant conditions with that particular farm, to get an assessment or understanding of what type of insect infestation that may possibly exist on the farm, or the areas on the farm in that particular field, or where the crops are being produced. But we have used drones also to do that, to understand what's occurring in different locations in the field. And that allows you then to deal with a concentration of that particular area of the field as it relates to dealing with any pest infestation that may be taking place or starting to take place, and how to deal with pesticide application accordingly. Of course, pesticide application and the cost of pesticides is very, very expensive now. So to any extent that you're able to identify the areas to concentrate on and to mitigate that particular situation in a timely fashion, then of course it's beneficial for the farmer. It creates a savings for the individual farmers, and as large as the fields are normally in certain cases, particularly you're talking about traditional crop production, row crop production, but the same thing applies in dealing with vegetable production. A lot of things has occurred in the past 12 months as it relates to agriculture, USDA itself. And a lot of the things that have occurred has been related to past, than what both people have heard and what people have experienced, particularly the African American community. We always hear about anything as relates to financial assistance, high financial assistance. Sometimes it's an after the fact. When we say the underserved and unreached community, unreached individuals that have not been able to capitalize on the access to resources that have been made available, that may be available even at the present point in time. One has been under a program in an area what they call the 2006 program. And 2006 is what was made available by way of Farm Service Agency that allowed individual farmers to get part of that debt written off. In certain cases, all of the debt. It depends upon the situation and where that debt may have been at a given point in time. And this is all farmers, not just African American farmers, all farmers. So there were actually debt write-offs under 2006. The other area was under 2007. And 2007, I got more calls after the fact than I did before. Although we ran commercials on the radio for probably a month or so, and we were the first agency to do it, well, the only agency I know of to do it, regarding the program and the application process under that, and the application for financial assistance for discrimination. Now, once the checks went out, and people were hearing about who got those checks, man, you got a lot of calls in. Well, I didn't know. Nobody told me. But we ran it in our newsletter for 2 or 3 months before the application time period even opened up. We ran it on the radio for a month or better on 94.5. Now, I know everybody may not listen to religious stations sometimes, but y'all listen to religious stations. Y'all may listen to 105.3, I don't know. The others, but we also broadcast on 105.3 as well, but it was on 94.5. But in that particular program, and I know many of you some possibly heard, from that, in an effort to address what has occurred in the past, and that has nothing to do with any employees who are working now. I say past. We're talking about 20, 40 years back. Most of them probably weren't even born then. I'm looking at it and says, I was 40, 50 years back. I say 40 years, 50 years back, more. But the financial system for discrimination, and of course, individuals who made the application, most of those individuals, they receive financial payments for what they had experienced with USDA. Most of them received pay for the discrimination practices that had occurred in the past. Whether you farm or you did not farm but tried to farm. So if individuals had tried to farm before and tried to get financial assistance and were not able to be and were not successful in getting financial assistance because they were treated differently, then those individuals also received payment or received checks, for the applications that was made. Rural development has done a lot. I did a housing program over here some years ago. The program doesn't exist anymore, but we worked with the city of Helena, West Helena, to develop an application to rebuild homes. Some of you may have heard about that also. Half of it was grant, half of it was loan that you had to pay back. We also have an investment in Helena, West Helena. How many of you have heard of Meadowbrook? Okay, well, Meadowbrook is owned by Arkansas Land and Farm Development Corporation. We created that development as well. And it's not just in Helena, West Helena. We have done that development in other cities, Forest City, Wynn, Marietta. We've also had developments that we've done in Crawfordsville and other areas. But I'm going to stop with this one. In fact, that was both my opening as well as some of the things that you can anticipate on hearing today. And, Miss Williams, I probably said it the wrong place. She knows that she likes to sit beside me so she can knock on the table and let me know. And then, of course, the USDA people, when I give a general summary of their program, they'll look because they want to make sure, okay, if you give a summary of what they're going to talk about, don't go into our program. So I really make sure I don't get into their programs and anything like that. And I say that because we as an agency, as an organization, we have to have the capacity not just to introduce the people and know the agency that you can go to. We have to have the capacity to know the agency and know their programs. So if you come to us, then we can do an assessment of what it is that you're actually looking for and what possible program opportunities is available from a particular agency and then get you over to that agency. I've heard people say sometimes, I went into an agency and I was trying to get some help and they act like they didn't know what I was talking about. But they may not have known what you were talking about. No, if you didn't clearly understand the program and what it was you were going to ask for. So the reason we say underserved in an area, which means it has been underserved as far as the resources getting to the individuals and to those communities, then there's also an area and where I say unreached, that the individuals and the communities have not been reached in a way that they need to be to really understand the resources, the agencies, and how to access those resources. And when I say unreached, I mean that you may be sitting here in this room, and if you don't engage and ask the question itself, so well, yeah, they had a lot of information, but I don't really know what they were talking about. But I mean, we didn't reach you today. So you're gonna come in, you're gonna go back out and say, well, I know they talked about a lot of stuff. And look like there's a lot of things they can do, but I really don't know, exactly what it is or how those programs fit me. I mean, we didn't reach you today. And it's our hope that we will reach you today, and the same thing for the USDA agencies, that you understand the type of programs and those programs that can be beneficial to you and how they can be beneficial to you. I'm going to stop at this point. I know you all not if you don't ask them the questions that I know you should ask, of course, some of the FSA people know that I'm gonna ask them the questions that I know you need to know about it. So if if I feel that they haven't really reached you, then I'll be the one to ask the question. I hope it's about to be out there before you got it. Like I guess they said, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, now that you have been briefed on all the programs that we're gonna be presented and talked about today, I am going to start with FSA on my right here. Farm Service Agency, we have Sarita Turner, Darren Davis, FSA Farm Programs. This is where you go to start with a farm number, a track number, and whatever program that you're going to start with. Also, we have Natasha Berry, who is the farm loan manager, farm loan manager, I'm sorry, and I know that, I'm so sorry. But she would be the one who just brief you on as the financing would get a loan to buy a farm, to buy equipment, and so on. Over here on my left is Ms. Tressel with NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services, which she will brief you on the EQIP CSP, which is Conservation Stewardship Program, hoop houses, or I don't know houses, but they are hot houses and another one. So high tunnels and others that you and here and this is
I'm with NRCS, I'm with Alicia Brown.
okay. Alicia Brown is here. I apologize because that's over there also was rural development. They informed me that they had other engagements. So Doc will be back to present you with the rural development community grants for the area of Phillips County here, housing grant and loan programs. So our mayor said that he was very interested in trying to build grow this area here with housing. So there's web information here to present and to be given to you by Doc. So we're gonna start with FSA, with Sarita Turner side here or Darren. I don't know which one's gonna go first. Doesn't matter. You just start. And the camera's rolling.
So in order to establish a farm and track number, as they were saying, we will need a few things from you. First, we will need to have you in the system. So we would need you to fill out some paperwork. It might look a little intimidating at first, but if you ask us, we will walk through it to the best of our abilities and as far as we are allowed to with you to try to make that easier on you. That information will basically just be name of yourself or your entity, address, social or tax ID number if you have one. And we will probably ask you what it is you're trying to do, because that'll help us guide you and help you figure out what programs would be best for you. You need a deed or a lease or something just proving that you have control of the land. Not that we're doubting it, just will already represent to add or create a family member. That's pretty much the basics. Heirs property, as I mentioned, gets a little fuzzier. I mean, a lease would work, but we would probably need it to be between all of the heirs and that person, which might be a little difficult for some people to do. That's pretty much the easiest way we have found around heirs property if possible. But aside from that, it's probably gonna go into legal direction and things that we aren't in per se. Okay.
Okay, so you said if there's a couple of things that you'll have to have in order to establish that farm number.
Yes.
So, and you said one was the title or the deed to the land in your name. So what did you lease the land for them?
Just a copy of the lease.
Contract or something that you need?
You can do the physical contract, but in cases we do allow verbal contracts. If, say, the landowner calls or comes up and tells us, hey, this person is working my land, in that case, we take verbal leases per se, just something between you and the landowner, just saying that you have control of it. It doesn't have to be in depth or anything, just a description of where the property is, landowner and the lease.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, let me, no, Mr. Davis. Yes. Mr. Davis, make sure, you all know specifically that what he's given reference to is in order for you to get a farm number. Get a farm number. If that particular site does not have a farm number. If it does not have a farm number. If it is a farm, sometimes you have land that just have not been farmed for a period of time, but it still has a farm number. So there can be a lot of things that you run into as it has to do with establishing the fact one doesn't already have a farm number. If it's a lot or something here in town, well, obviously it does not have a farm number, and it's a matter of getting this farm number forward.
Okay, so if it's currently, if the person is currently farming and they're retiring, and so you want to lease the land. So the person that's wanting to do that, that's what they have to get a new number or because you can't.
No, that's why.
Operate under the same number that they're using?
Yes, you can, if it is already a farm number, just the lease or the landowner calling to do, if you're trying to update it and say you bought the land that you're referencing, then just bring us the deed, we'll get that changed over to your name, and you could let us know who you want on it, if anyone, or if you want to just be owner operator yourself, that we can do that too.
And then all operations start new under the new person.
Let me make sure, I want to make sure we, that we get clarity and we're giving you the right answer and the right information. If you are the property owner and a person has been operating that farm, then 9.9 times out of 10, it already has a farm number.
Okay.
And so it has a farm number. Now, if you are wanting to lease that land from the owner, and you know that's been operated on that farm before, then I would still suggest that you have a conversation with FSA to make sure that that farm has not been consolidated with another number. Because there are very specifics on how farming operations has been done over the years. In some cases, and I know I did it myself, they consolidated where you had two farm numbers. So I was leasing from John Doe and I was releasing from Sue to Q also, right? With two different farm numbers. And then I had my own land that had a farm number. Then I go into consolidating those two pieces of property under one farm number, and it may be the the farm number which was on the land that I was operating and owned. Okay, so now it could have a farm number, that it was operating under by the previous individual. But if you're going to be leasing it, or if you're going to lease it to another individual, it is very important that the person know and understand that they still have their original farm number to that land, or that it's not connected to another farm number that it was consolidated with. And there are a number of reasons for that, particularly when it comes down to the farm numbers and how they may have contracts. They may have contracts under that farm number with NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services. And if that farm number and you lease it, or you lease it to another individual, and you're still dealing with that particular farm number that's linked to some other land as well, then you may possibly run into some issues if you want to sign up for a program with Natural Resource Conservation Services and you're using that number. They said, well, we already have a contract on that number, or we have that farm number under John Doe as the operator under that farm number. Now, that would mean that you're going to have to go in to make sure that you get a farm number specifically identified with that particular farm, based on the description of the operation and the location, and they have the farm maps and everything, land location maps, that they can make sure you have a farm number that is specifically for that farm, that land. So, and I say that because all of these things are possibilities. So it is important that when you engage with in a conversation with farm service agency, if you go in and talk to them, so well, here's what I want to know. This farm is owned by John Doe, or it is owned by me. Do you have a farm number with this name on the farm and this description? They can quickly pull that up. Am I right, Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir.
They can quickly pull that up and say, yes, we have a farm number. This land is owned by you, or it is owned by John Doe, and this is the farm number for that location. So getting confirmation, I say 9.9 times out of 10, there is a farm number connected back to that land or that farm, but you need to make sure that it is clearly identified singly for that farm and is not been consolidated back with another farm number that involves, other pieces of land. Either the original number, that the original number is still there. But FSA can tell you that. FSA can tell you, and then if that has occurred, and you're not the owner, and you're going to lease it from someone, then it needs to be brought to their attention that they need to get well, let me ask you this, Mr. Davis.
Mm-hmm.
In a case like that, if they went ahead and used the same farm number, is that okay? And they use the same farm number, but it's been consolidated, and they use that same farm number, and they wanted to put it into the Conservation Reserve Program.
I can't speak for NRCS, but I think they
No,
go
I'm
by
talking
tracts.
FSA.
Yeah, I think NRCS goes by tract number. So we have farms that have, just say 10, some that have 20 different tracts. It may be a different farmer on every single one of those tracts. So NRCS typically structures their contracts around the tract number instead of the farm number. So if you got a farm that has been consolidated like that, if it's two different tracts, it probably won't be a problem. But if they are the same tract, they might get murky on their end. But for us, if we have different farmers working the same tract of land all the time. Sometimes we have them on the same fields. But FSA, as far as FSA is concerned, we have ways to keep that differentiated. I can't speak for them though.
No, I'm not speaking for NRC, I'm just speaking specifically for the farm number. That requirement that you must have a farm number.
Yeah, you can,
If you're applying for, I'm gonna say the equal program in example, then you have to have a farm number, when you make that application for the equal program.
yes,
So not track number. They don't look for track numbers, they look for farm numbers, all right?
We look for both the farm and track number, but like Mr. Davis said, we're more so focused on the track number. So you could have the same farm number, but like you said, just different people farming on that same track. So in that instance, what we'll more so look at is whether or not that person is going to have control of that land for the amount of time that the contract will be in. Even though they'll have two people farming that same track. And more in-depthly, two people could be farming the same track, but they're farming separate fields that's on that track. So it might not overlap as well.
Okay. As long as the description of it,
As
description of the project. The other area I want to give reference to, ma'am, is on the contract. Is that either way, you got the farm level situation worked out, you should have a contract that is, I'm gonna say minimum of 7 years. Now, I know the compliance period is equipped is what, 5 years, 3 years?
depending how long, the max we could go to is 10 years,
It's
but
10
it
years.
just depends on how your contract is set up, your conservation fund.
So a part of that, you don't need to do no 1-year contract. If you're looking at signing up for program services, from NRCS, even FSA, from that standpoint. If you, that's done with the owners, not with the operators, on the conservation reserve program. But you need to make sure that there's a long-term contract. If you're gonna be the operator, not a 1-year contract. Because the compliance period normally for their programs, particularly with NRCS, it could be 3 years, 5 years, and so you could go to 10 years or so as an operator of that farm. I hope that answers it, but I'm
Thank you, thank you.
please, everybody.
They ain't gonna let you see one print that.
Say what? I think we just decided our conversation.
Oh, okay, I thought. Oh, okay. Is that answer, is that?
It did, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Is anybody have anything online? One, please. Not any questions online. Okay, all right. So no one else here? Then we're gonna move to finance with,
No, let me answer this question.
okay.
Is that, that's not everything, on the program
Yep,
side.
that's
I know somebody else is gonna talk about program areas. That there are 2 other areas, at least a minimum 2 other areas in programs that y'all operate on the program side.
Okay.
But are you gonna, who's gonna talk about that?
what do you want to know?
Well, one of the 2 things, one is that they understand the Conservation Reserve Program, CRP. The other thing you need to understand on the program side is NAP. Typically, you're gonna be introducing vegetables. And then of course, while this is on the program side, talk about the NAP, with, the risk management, in cropping operations. But also, when that is a disaster and program payments are coming out, then that also comes on your program side, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did
So as far as CRP is my program. as of 10/1 of this year, FSA nationally does not have CRP authority due to the lapse in farm bill. So we cannot do any more CRP offers until the national office clears it. So it's a pause on CRP right now. Emergency programs, they come out on an as needed basis, obviously, depending on what's going on. Recently, we've had droughts and flooding all around Phillips County, and just, the national office delivers those emergency programs, they decide when. We pretty much don't have a say, they just let us know, hey, we're doing this, you guys administer it, do we have one right now?
Now, we did apply for the national disaster, we did get approved for it,
Right.
so they do have a disaster loans out for emergency loans, but that's another thing, but we don't know about any programs coming out yet.
That's right.
It's been word that it's one in the pipeline right now, but we haven't heard anything officially on it.
Right, it's my understanding what I read, it had been declared a disaster area.
Yes.
Been declared as a disaster area. And that's both, from flooding and, well, some of it from preventive planning as well.
Dealing with the drought,
Right, right.
the drought, we have more excessive rain to prevent planting.
Right,
Than we did.
okay, so that would be in. It's just coming into effect.
They just approved it last month.
Okay. So on the, and this is on the program side, people, when payments come up, and that's not just for large farms, for any farmers, including those who may be vegetable farmers. For disasters, or say you lost your crop, with so much rain, it's flooded, and you lost your crop as a result of that, or because of drought. And that's making sure that you've gone in and you're certified, your crop, vegetable crop, certified and signed up for that. Of course, on the other crops, it's a little bit different. But, so that program, sign up, I'm assuming y'all will announce it, your public.
The emergency.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, the emergency disaster program comes out, we will announce. And we usually have outreach on it, trying to come up and push it out this way.
You do outreach. Yeah, we'll be talking about it more too, coming up. Now, exactly how does that work still though? So one has, say, traditional crops, and you have crop insurance, and of course, it depends, whether you have what I call the minimum payment level, you have bio.
Yeah, producers, you only can get bio coverage if you have turned in some production previously. If you don't have production, you have to come in at the 50-55 base. And it's just the basic payment level. If you just looking at farming, it's still good. But you just have to make sure you certify your crops. That's where a lot of downfall comes in. A lot of people don't come into the office and certify their crops. They say, I planted this, but they have to come certify the crop. And then you have to come report to us and let us know if your crop didn't produce or didn't grow or something failed. So you just have to communicate to the office.
But you have to be certified first.
You have to be certified. And it is a deadline, so really after you plant your crop, it's best just to come into the office and certify your crop. Even if you need to plant some more, still just come to the office or just call us and just let us know. And you can just certify anytime over the phone or come into the office. Or even email.
Now, on the NAP program, what's your sign up period for NAP? Now, and NAP is a crop insurance, people. If you're raising vegetables, it's a crop insurance, and normally for individuals, if you're in a certain category, you don't have to pay anything.
Social disadvantage, they don't have to pay anything.
Okay. Social disadvantage, do not have to pay anything for NAP.
What's the definition of social disadvantage?
Minority or a woman.
Tina, minority, and veterans to do
Someone wants to know if they can make a comment.
And also the limited resource, you know, you get that, the LLC.
Someone wants to know if they can make a comment. If they-
Okay, simple.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Attorney Steve Lawrence up in Chicago. Thank you for letting me listen in on your call today. I've been certified by Alcorn and by the Southern Rural Development Center as someone trained on issues of airship property. I've gone through training over that for the last several years, and I've gone and given speeches on airship property issues in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and elsewhere. And all I wanted to say was, I really enjoyed the first part of the presentation today on airship property. That's a very important issue. Everyone on this call is familiar with land loss by Black farmers and others due to mortgage foreclosure and due to delinquent taxes. But not everyone is familiar with land loss due to adverse possession, condemnation, or other airship issues. I've practiced law for 42 years. I just want to leave my name and information in the comments section. If anyone has any questions about any airship property issues, I wish they would reach out to me. I'm one of the few attorneys that you can talk to, and I'll spend time on the phone with you at no charge. I've been doing this work for a long time, and I'm just happy to help. This is not my first attendance of this meeting. I've attended your meeting back in the spring as well. So please allow me to leave my contact information on airship property. If I can help anyone or be put in contact with someone that can assist with any issues of state partition law or issues of ancestral ownership, any issues of taxes or adverse possession or sheriff sale or partition sale, I would love to have the opportunity to speak to you, and I'll help you any way I can. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Delete the name, say the name again.
Well, I'm gonna say we sincerely greatly appreciate that. Mr. Lofton, of course, he has a legal background, and I want to make sure that he connects back with you. And he's in training now in Atlanta, Georgia, but as a practitioner to deal with air property issues. And I'm going to come back. I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to come back to that subject area a little later because there's a lot. There are other areas that you can lose land and how you can lose land, adverse possession, eminent domain, and of course, delinquent property taxes are some of the other areas.
I personally participated in that Atlanta training 2 years ago. It is an excellent training. It's an excellent training, and I got certified after the conclusion of that training. Please allow me to leave my information in the comments, and please reach out to me if I can help in any way.
Okay, Mike, is he putting that online, his information? Okay, yes, if you will put that online, then we will make sure that we follow back up with you, Mr. Lofton will. That's one thing we're trying to deal with now, both having practitioner on staff from a legal standpoint, as well as work with a network of other lawyers to assist with air property and other challenges that we often find, particularly in the African American community, as it relates to land loss.
These are very, very, very important issues. The Uniform Airship Property Act can help. It can definitely help reduce the amount of land loss, but you have to go through the correct steps and procedures to avoid the harsh impact of either sheriff sale or other auction as a result. So please reach out to me. Would be happy to talk with you, even if you just have questions. I've been practicing real estate law, wills and trusts. I've been doing that work for 42 years.
Thank you very much. And any clients that we work with, and we work most of this from our city office, those who are here, and we make those connections by way of Zoom. And what I will probably do is follow back up with you because we're going to be putting on some interviews both around that issue as it relates to program access with USDA, the challenges, and of course we'll do that by Zoom or by YouTube, and then we'll notify people how to access the information in more details. based on the interview process that we'll be doing with resource people such as yourself. So I greatly appreciate that, very much so.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so now there's a sign-up period for the NAP, which is it's an insurance program, risk management. If you're raising vegetables, this is just vegetable or orchard growers as well. If you have orchards, if you raise vegetables, then the NAP program is an insurance program that you sign up for. And for the most part, let me just say, probably everybody here would qualify for the program. So it's important that you sign up during the sign up period. And of course, you can double crop with vegetables. So you have 2 or 3 different sign up periods. You have spring, summer, and fall.
It just depends on what you.
Based on the
plant,
crops.
Based on the crops, for strawberries, it's usually September. Pecans is December, most of all the other fruits and vegetables is February 28th, and then green beans, peas, stuff like this. Green beans is March, but black eyed peas and peas are in February.
So,
But you can sign up all at one time, and early is better than waiting till the last minute, because you wanna just make sure you get all your property and just write a list and say, I think I'm gonna plant this, even if you're not gonna plant it, just put a list down together. Because it's no cost to you, so just ensure what you can.
so that's the conservation reserve. Now, I know you mentioned that, because of the farm bill situation, our conservation reserve program, you're really not dealing with sign-ups for that now.
Yeah.
But now, exactly how does that work?
Just you let me know, or you can show me, tell me farm number, anything, just let me know the land that you're trying to enroll. I will go into our system and run what's called a scenario. It'll tell you the practice, which is pretty much either tree planting or grasses or waterways. I put that scenario in, what you want to do with the ground, how many acres, and then the system takes the top 3 soil types and determines your rental rate based off of those, the average price of those 3 soil types.
What's your average payment per acre on that you have in the program?
It is hard to say, everything is different. We got some ground in bad
No,
spots.
I'm just an average across the board. What's the average?
I had some were 140 acres, some that were 70. It all depends on your soil type. That's what the rental rate is.
No, I'm sorry.
The rate,
Payment per acre,
That's the rate per acre.
$140 per acre.
Yeah, I have a couple of those. I think I got one as high as 149 an acre. Again, that all depends on your soil type. If you got 3 really good soils, you're looking at a higher rate. If you got 3 really bad soils, you're looking at a lower rate.
What's the lowest rate?
Like around 75 is our lowest rate an acre.
Okay, that's the conservation reserve program. Some individuals, and even those who have air property, some have chosen to put their land into the conservation reserve program. Where it qualifies, that's up to 15 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's a 15-year time period you put in the conservation reserve program. You said they have minimum payment while they're not signing up now, but information to know. So when it does open back up, their minimum payment for Phillips County now is about $70, $75 an acre. Now, in some cases, farms that are not as productive, not irrigated and things of that nature. I have talked to people that's getting $40 an acre,
yes.
For their farm being rented out, some $50 an acre. Well, of course, if you put it into the conservation reserve program, and first of all, just to find out how much would you be able to get per acre. And if you qualify to get $140 an acre out of it in the conservation reserve program, then of course the income from the air property is going to be more in the conservation reserve program versus renting it for $40, $50 an acre, or even $60 an acre. Now, the practices, is that a cost share?
Yeah, the establishment, so if you do trees, they'll pay you, what is, depending on the sign type, we have, I think, what was it, Clear 30 that paid 90% for establishment. But our regular CRP sign up pays 50% cost share. So half of the cost.
Now, people, what that basically means, if you put them into the program, conservation reserve program, the practice, that you're required to implement certain practices there. One is trees and one is grasses. If you are planning to put it back into a farming operation at the end of the 15 years to lease it back out, you don't want to put trees on it. But if you put grasses on it, that means that they can do up to 90% of the cost to get those grasses planted. And that's established. They say establishment. When establishment, if you get it established and you get perennial, you put perennial grasses on it, of course, and putting perennial grasses on it that's coming back, every year, then that 10%, possibly 10%, that an individual would end up having to pay to cover the full cost for dealing with establishment, the base part of the requirement for the program, and that's saying putting the grasses on. So 90% cost share, 50% minimum on that, and your practice, what you cut it, once a year?
It's mid-management, or they want you to either disc it, mow it, or do a burn down at every 3 years or so, roughly.
Okay.
You're only looking at probably 3 or 4 times during the length of the contract. You gotta, after playing together, actually get out there and do management activities.
So that's on the conservation reserve for on the program side with Farm Service Agency. Cost share comes with it, up to $140 an acre minimum.
That varies by county. That's just our rate for our soil types.
Right. Now, of course, they will explain to you how they make the determination on what the, of course, soil types and all types of soil, those are made the fact that erosion, erosion a factor still?
I believe so. That is all determined by the computer. So I just pick the practice and the land, and the computer generates all the numbers. So the soil types, payment rate, all that is automatically generated by the computer.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Mr. Davis.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions regarding the program side? NRCS?
Yeah. I got one.
Yes.
The money that the program sends to the owner, is that taxable income?
That's a very, that is a very, very good question, sir. A very good question. And and there's yes, to answer your question, you will get a 1099. You're gonna get a 1099 at the end of the year. It is taxable income.
Yes.
It is taxable income. Now, the other question also that individuals, I have had individuals ask, so one, it is taxable income, and then 2, will it affect my retirement payments, Social Security retirement payments? And which is also a very good question, because once you give your Social Security number, that's why I say you need to have all the information. You need to have all the information in order for you to make a determination. You will get a 1099. It is taxable if you, well, it's taxable. You have to report it from a tax perspective, but if you have a good tax preparer, then you'll probably be safe. As far as having to pay anything. Now, when I say safe to the extent that you won't have to pay anything if you're dealing with your area of retirement, based on what I know and what I've seen as being the average retirement income on Social Security for the state of Arkansas, particularly in Eastern Arkansas. Based on those averages and all that I looked at, it would not have any impact. That's a question. Yes, sir.
Based on the taxes again, What if you're 100% disabled veteran? You don't pay taxes. You have to pay taxes on that?
It's like, do you have to pay,
If you're 100% disabled veteran.
or if you're 100% disabled veteran? No, under the veteran disability, now that's one you're putting on the spot on. I need to read up on. I read about the Social Security side.
That's not true.
I'm being honest. I have actually never been asked that question before. But on the disabled veteran side, I really don't know. But I will say this: whatever you are putting in farm income, because that becomes in essence, if you have not been filing a Schedule F and you're looking at putting it into programs, then I would suggest that you also possibly restructure the way that you do your taxes and file a Schedule F and deal with all related expenses to your farming operation. Such as one example is dealing with the practice. So you're going to incur some costs, even if it's only at that 10%, in dealing with establishing the practices on the land. So if they're only going to do 90% of it, they do 50%, and dealing with rental seeds and anything else that may be involved in that practice, and you need to make sure that you deal with what those expense factors are and put that in as a part of an expense in filing the taxes under a Schedule F and as a farm program, farm enterprise, farming.
In addition to what was just said, I mentioned to you earlier that I was giving talks in Indiana and Missouri, and one of the things we talked about was having your farm not held by you personally, and it should not be held personally. It should be held either in a limited liability company or it should be held in a corporation. Those things are very easy to do. They're very inexpensive to do, and they may help you avoid this problem of income resulting in harm to your pension or Social Security payments. And again, if anybody wants to talk about that further, I agree with what you said earlier, but if you want to go in more depth on that, on the LLC or the corporation, I did put the contact information in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good to have a backup.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I'm backing you up. I agreed with everything you said. I'm behind you.
I understand. That's a major plus for me. So if there's possibly, sometimes people say, "No, one doesn't know what you're talking about." That's why I say it's good to have backup. Confirmation is always good. Thank
Please,
you.
if you don't remember anything else, please do not sleep on the limited liability company, and do not sleep on the subchapter S corporation, the subchapter C corporation. I don't care if you put the land in a trust, but put it somewhere, please, to protect yourself, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to move from farm programs, which FH is still FSA, and now we're going to allow Ms. Berry to present on farm loan side.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. King, for having me.
Thanks, Anthony.
Good morning. Today I'm going to be talking on some of FSA most used loan programs. But before I get into those loan programs, I want to talk about the new rule that went into effect September the 25th. One of the most important things about this new rule was that it reduced security requirements from 150% to 125%. Okay, so under this new rule, it helps you keep more of your assets. In the past, FSA would take a lien on all of your equipment. Under this new rule, we can pick pieces of equipment to take to get up to that 125. We don't have to take a lien on all of your equipment as we have done in the past. Now, for the microloan program, the microloan program is geared to new farmers who just want to start farming or small farmers. That limit is 50,000 for direct annual operating expenses, and these loan funds can be used for chemicals, seed, and so forth. The term is 1 to 7 years. For annual operating expenses, it's due back in 1 year, and for equipment purchases, it's due back in 7 years or less. The requirement for the microloan is that we require security of 100%. We do have a microloan FO program, and also you have a 25-year term or less to pay that back, and that limit is also 50,000, and the security requirement is just 100% under the microloan program. Under the direct loan program, it's geared towards our farmers who are more established and have a greater number of acres. That limit is 400,000. It can be used for annual operating expenses and equipment purchases as well. The interest rate is set, and then once it's approved, you're locked in at that interest rate. For this month, I think the interest rate for direct operating loans is 4.25, and like I said, once you're locked in, you're locked in. Under direct farm ownership program, it's a $600,000 limit, and you have 40 years or less to pay that back. You can use those funds to purchase a farm and for upkeep of your farm. So I want you to take all of that in consideration, that FSA do have loan programs available to help you start a farm, to help you maintain your farm. You have to come into the office and speak to a loan officer or a loan manager, and they can guide you into the right direction to get a FSA loan. There are eligibility requirements that you have to meet, but we can't make an eligibility determination unless we have a complete application, okay? I am going to go into the application process, but I do want to speak on the guaranteed loan. The guaranteed loan is one of our biggest loan programs. And that guaranteed loan program is FSA works with area lenders. These lenders have been trained on the guaranteed loan program. That program is geared to farmers where the 400,000 in the direct loan program is not enough for their operation. So they have to move to the guaranteed loan program. And under the guaranteed loan program, you have a limit of $2,251,000 that you will be available for. And under the guaranteed loan program, what FSA does is we guarantee the bank 90 to 95% that if you don't pay that loan back, the government will pay the bank back. Okay. All right. So now we pay the bank back, but you are still liable for that debt.
Right.
All right. It does not remove liability from you because we pay the bank debt. Okay. So let's talk about the application process.
What's the span of the guaranteed loan? The other ones you gave like the 40 years.
Well, it depends on what type of guarantee loan you're getting. If you're going to get a guaranteed loan for annual operating expenses, you have to pay back 1 year. It'll be due back in 1 year. And it is at the bank's interest rate. So that interest rate will be higher than the FSA interest rate. If you want a guaranteed loan to purchase equipment, again, it's at the bank interest rate, but you have 7 years or less to pay that back. And they also do guaranteed FO loans, and it's based on their criteria. They are not going to give you 40 years to pay a farm ownership loan back. So you will have to work with your lender, and then your lender will work with us. So are there any questions on?
Those loans are also based on your credit?
Well, we do look at your credit as well. And that is an eligibility requirement that you have an acceptable credit history. We do not look at credit score. We look at how many days you were 90 days past due, 60 days past due, 30 days. We cannot make a decision on credit score. So you have to have an acceptable credit history. Yes, sir.
Is there an age requirement?
If there is no age requirement. Yes, sir.
When the law change, can you refinance?
Excuse me?
When the law change, can you refinance?
We do refinance other creditors, farm creditors.
Okay.
We can refinance John Deere if you have an equipment debt, we can Case Capital. We can refinance for chemical companies, but you have to have the security to secure those refinance debt, okay?
Okay.
Are there any more questions? Okay, now I do want to talk about the application process, and I did bring some applications and they're on the table. The application process, in the past, there were several different forms that you would complete to obtain an FSA loan. Those forms has been condensed into one application. It's 12 pages, but most of it is basically name, address, and some reading that you would have to do. So you would fill out that application to the best of your ability, and you need to fill out as much as you can. And the part that you cannot fill out, you can contact your local FSA official and they can help you complete the rest of that form. Now, once we receive your application, FSA is on a time frame. We have 7 days to review that application to see if there's anything else that we need. We're going to send you a letter and we're going to give you 15 days to provide that information. If we do not have that information within 15 days, we send you another letter and we give you an additional 15 days for a total of 30 days to provide us a complete application. If we do not receive everything in those 2 letters, your application is withdrawn. If we receive everything, you will receive a complete letter. And once again, FSA is on a time frame to complete your loan request. So the application process is very easy and is based on time frames so we can get your loan approved in a timely manner. So are there any questions?
I just have one. If I'm a beginning producer,
Mm-hmm.
urban producer,
Mhm.
and I'm just starting out, I mean, I have the land, but I don't have any equipment. I'm renting.
The microloan program would be,
Is the-
yes. I do want to mention this, the microloan program, it does help farmers who want to farm to get into business. So you are restricted to that 50,000. So that program will be available to you if you meet the eligibility requirements. Eligibility requirements is based on once we review your complete application. We have 5 days to determine you eligible once we receive a complete application. But to answer your question, yes, the microloan program will be best in that scenario.
And other than having acceptable credit history, what other eligibility requirements would that person have to meet?
You have to be a USA I mean, you have to be a US citizen. You cannot be convicted or have any like federal insurance violation. They're just, you have to have an acceptable credit history. Once we get your application, that's the first thing that we're gonna do is for your credit report. And we do that because if your credit is not acceptable, there's really no need for us to go any further. So, and that's been a big thing, you know, people want to know what is our credit requirement. And, you know, everything else is about score. And like I said, we don't look at score. You know, we look at your history and so forth. But there are so many other, it just depends on, you know, the type of loan that you're requesting. Go ahead, Mr.
So I got one more. So in this case, is no credit history better than having some credit history?
Like I said, we're gonna pull a report, so no credit history works in your favor.
Okay.
May I ask a question? Is your jurisdiction strictly in Arkansas, or are you regional? Can you go up into Missouri and elsewhere?
Our jurisdiction is strictly Arkansas.
But all the programs she talked about is with USDA being Missouri, well, all over the country. All of the country, including for urban farms.
Yeah. It should be under the same guidelines, yes.
Right. Same guidelines, same requirements.
So each state is going to administer their own program, but with the similar guidelines.
Yes, we're all under the same regulation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I'm someone who can't afford a loan. Can y'all help me get a grant?
We don't do grants on the farm loan side, I'm sorry.
Take them to that side.
Are there any more questions?
Well, I have one, and because I know sometimes it's very confusing, and a lot of times we'll back away when they say, okay, with credit, say, okay, we don't deal with credit score, we say credit history.
Mm-hmm.
What are the most damaging areas when you look at credit history?
The most damaging areas is basically late payments. It could be on credit cards, it can be with other lenders. We cannot look at doctor's visits or medical history and stuff like that, but mostly it's on late payments with credit cards, automobile payments, bank loans, and so forth.
Phone bills.
Excuse me?
Mobile phone bills.
Yes, sir, mobile phone bills.
Those are always popular, I see them all the time.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, question.
Yes, sir.
May I ask a question on what that's the statement, and I think it's a team, right? Remember what he's saying, how do people in general, it's like he said, once you say credit, then no, I don't want to do it anymore. But people don't know those stipulations that you have. How can the people know that they can farm of that, if they only got a list about credit and I ain't missed no bills, I got 500. How do y'all get that out there?
Yes, some bills you got down. Yeah.
We don't look at scores. We don't look at scores.
How do people know that?
They need to contact their local FSA office and speak to a loan official. You're right, right.
I got a question. What if a farmer wants, a beginning farmer wants to farm, and you're saying that you don't look at the credit? What happens if they had a bankruptcy a couple of years ago? Does that still?
Yes, yes, we do look at bankruptcy. It depends on how far back they had the bankruptcy. We also look at if you have any judgments. If you have any judgments in any court's file of record, those judgments have to be cleared up before we do you a loan. Yes.
I know you're not my financial advisor, but I want to know. What software do y'all use to check the credit history?
We use all 3 credit bureaus.
Okay. Appreciate it.
One more question over here for me. What if your credit is, you have a good credit score and all your bills paid on time, but the amount of money they're asking for, then y'all gonna say debt to income ratio?
We're not gonna.
You would do that?
No.
Oh,
No.
yeah. I thought she was asking the question. She started, and I was gonna say.
Go.
So, what if you have a, let me excuse myself. So what if you have a 740 credit score?
I can't even picture credit score because we don't look at
Okay,
it.
y'all do the score. Okay, so if you're, and you have maybe 2 or 3 accounts that you may have been 30 days late. So is that like a red flag or is that a? I think-
Well,
but
we look at it, how far apart those late payments were. Usually, when we look at credit, anything after 3 years, we try not to look at it. Okay. If it happened within the last week, so.
I guess,
Sir, it's some applications on the table. And you know, and I do want to iterate, I do not work in this area, so if you come to the Phillips County FSA office, there's a chance that I won't be there. So. I'm farm loan manager for Monroe, Prairie County, Lone Oak, and Pulaski County. Currently, Cedric Hicks is the farm loan manager for Phillips County.
Who does legal?
Cedric Hicks. Currently. Currently. Now, I can speak with you, but I won't be able to process a loan in this area. So I have no problem with speaking with anyone. Ma'am?
I said, no, I spoke with them before, he was very.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, let me say this, about our organization. One is that we work with individuals in developing the application itself. Michael Checker, farm advisor here, Ms. Williams, myself and other staff. And, you know, I will say, I think, you know, we've been doing it for a long time, so we understand the process. I know you gave reference to the income to debt ratio. Does income to debt ratio make a difference? The main thing that makes a difference is cash flow.
Yes.
Income to debt, they don't look at that, but they do look at cash flow. And the cash flow basically means that when we develop the application, what we look at is the ability to repay that debt, be it from your farm income and other income, whichever, because all of that goes into the application of the loan business package. So that is very crucial, and we make that analysis based on the crop enterprise. That's either with a micro farm or a larger farming operation. You know, so first thing that we look at, cash flow capabilities of that particular business enterprise that you're going to be dealing with. And we use real figures, comparable with extension service and those other information is online. Average on a per acre basis, including the micro farm. If it's on a farm lot, if it's on a half an acre, whichever. You know, we can do it down to basically how many rows that you're gonna have on a particular crop. And the length of those rows and what the capacity is to produce a certain yield of that particular crop, that crop that comes off. And based on the marketplace, what the expected returns that you would get from that particular business. The micro farming portion, I said, the large gardening operation, she said for operating expenses, that includes equipment as well.
Yes.
Now, she gave reference to the equipment, she gave reference to the operating loan, and you pay it back at the end of a year. So you got 1 year for full repayment, with an exception of equipment. Equipment, you have 7 years, okay? So you have to look at the ratio basis of the amount of the money in the loan that will be for general operating expenses, that's seed, labor, you know, it could be fertilizer, pesticides, you know, things of that nature. So that total dollar amount would have to be paid back at the end of the year. The investment in equipment, then of course we spread that out over a 7-year period of time. Now I'm gonna give reference to this and they can talk in more detail about it. They also have, in addition to the other thing to deal with the restructuring and refinancing, they have a loan flexibility program now. You wanna talk about that, Tom? Well,
I can talk briefly on that. There is a loan flexibility program, and what that program do, it is under the new rule. It gives farmers more input on how they make their payment. We now offer interest-only payment the first few years. That is something that the producer or the applicant decides if they want interest-only payments. And what that means is that you're only paying the interest the first year. Your principal is not reduced. That is one of the elements of this new rule that a lot of people disagree with. But what we're trying to do is let you make more decisions in how you make your payments every year. We're trying to make it more flexible. We're trying to help you save more money in the long run. So in that flexibility program, it's basically you learning how to monitor your payments and deciding on which payment plan works best for you. You do not have to do interest only first. If you're looking to knock down your principal, you need to let your loan official know that you do not want interest only payments. So that's just a brief overview of it so forth. And that just came into effect September the 25th. So we're just getting kind of into that program, but it is available for producers.
How would that have helped the ones that participated in that? And then when this extension of the 22006 come back, would that have paid theirs off?
Well, like I said, that the flexibility just came into effect September the 25th. So if you had loans before that, those payment option wasn't available at that time.
But I hadn't paid nothing on September.
September the 25th?
Yeah.
Yes.
That took effect in September 30, did it not?
Yeah, the flexibility program came in effect September the 25th. And it was for producers who turned in an application September the 25th or later, that they can decide if they wanted interest-only payments.
So if they had done that, 22006 would not affect them at all with that extension? I mean, I'm just asking.
Well, like I said, You would have to have turned in an application after that new rule had come into effect.
What percentage y'all have to do that?
Excuse me?
What percent did y'all have any borrowers to do that?
I'm not for sure about this area. We started getting applications at the beginning of our fiscal year, which is October the 1st. And in the area that I cover, we have a lot of producers who have taken advantage of the flexibility program, and they have opted to do the interest only payments for the first year to save money. It doesn't matter if you were a part of 22006. It's when you turned in your application after the new rule.
So is that new loans you're saying, or is that?
No, it's the same loan, it's just that you have more of an option of how you would like to pay your payment.
A little clarity on that.
Okay.
Say, what's new loan, or old loan?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you call an application? So if a person turns in an application for debt restructure.
Yes.
And you're dealing with an old debt. And you.
Prior to September 25th.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, say, okay, so, you got debt prior to, but you are turning in an application for debt restructuring and a new loan. Now.
We can look at the flexibility.
You can still use the flexibility for program interest, so I want to make sure, so we're saying new like application, not, it doesn't have to be a new loan.
Right.
It could be the loans themselves.
Yes, sir.
That you would pay based on that business package you put together.
Right.
So you go in, package it out as a business loan application that involves debt restructuring, that's both old debt and a new loan. And in that application and the package, the way you put it together, then you're applying for interest only within the context of this farm business plan.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, which would be on both the old loan and the new loan that would be involved in that.
Yes.
So make sure we talk about application. Again, she said, if you make application.
Yes.
If you make application, she said, she repeated that a number of times, people.
Yes.
In other words, if you don't make application, then you get nothing.
Right.
It's gonna still be the same way. So there is an application process, even with that, and that's why I wanted to mention the flexibility program. And, some possibilities with that, because it's not just a new application for a new loan.
Yes,
it involves all that. And just like with big business enterprises, a lot of times it requires there's a need to look at and to do restructuring of that business from a financial perspective and otherwise.
All right, is that?
That's it.
All right. There are not any questions online. All right, thank you.
You're
FSA. Next, we're gonna have NRCS. Ms. Tressa.
Well, good afternoon. As she said, my name is Tressa Benjamin, and I am the district conservationist for Phillips County. Here with me today, before I start, thank you, Dr. King, for having us here, really appreciate it. But before I start, I do want to introduce the individuals that we do have here with us, as well as those who are afar, but still with us. Right next to me is a young lady named Alicia Brown. She is now our RCPP coordinator, and she started back in October of this year. Behind me, we have our IWM specialist with the Conservation District. His name is Ronell Williams. And right close by him is our conservation technician for the Conservation District, and he works hand in hand with one of our soil conservationists. His name is Demario Rose. And all the way to the left, okay. Well, with that being said, the individuals that we are missing is our other soil conservationist, Mr. Theatri Griffin, who is serving as our EQIP coordinator. And we also have Stefan Davis, who is a soil conservationist, and he is serving as our CSP coordinator. All right, with that being said, I'm going to begin. So Dr. King mentioned the ASCS. I know it as the Soil Conservation Service. Yes, that was before my time, but we don't have to get into that. At the core of NRCS, SCS, we would like to address resource concerns, right? And moving forward, NRCS has started to progress into different avenues and hence the birth of urban within NRCS. NRCS realized that there are several places that serve as a food desert and people are not having good accessibility to food. So they started this program. And most of the times people think of urban as being just Chicago's, the New York's, the where else? Miami, LA, all of that good stuff. But we look at it as more than that. It's also included in the rural areas where we are, where still food is not that accessible. So with that being said, urban production not only looks at the food accessibility, but the type of food that's being immediately accessed. So we're focused more on alternative crops, small crop production. And what that means is anything other than row crop, your typical corn, soybeans, peanuts, cotton. If you are doing things like tomatoes, cabbages, turnips, greens and stuff of that nature, we will be able to assist you if that is on your operation. And it's not just limited to vegetable production. You may be doing something like a floral production. You may be doing something like mushroom production or honey beekeeping. Whatever that capacity is, we will be able to assist you with. Again, we would like to help you address resource concerns on your land. And those resource concerns include things like water inefficiency, soil erosion. It could be plant productivity on a whole. Maybe you're not just getting the best type of yield that you should. Just alleviating water off of your land, just to name a few. And if you are into animal production, we can help you assist in terms of making sure they have enough water being accessed and enough forage. With that being said, we have, I guess he was giving me strict orders on what I need to be talking about, so I will. We do assist with something called a high tunnel, hoop house, hot house, it's known by different names. And in years past, we had a specific initiative that is just for high tunnel. But now we have a whole section that is for urban production, and this encompasses many different activities. So from you being able to, for us to cost share on a high tunnel with you, as well as you getting assistance with micro irrigation, as well as you getting assistance with a well. With that being said, you still need to have some sort of irrigation history to begin within our EQIP program. Now, we always recommend if you are going to do certain activities with us, some programs are better fit for it than others. I mentioned EQIP earlier, and that is called our Environmental Quality Incentives Program. And typically in this one, you're getting your feet wet, right? Maybe you're not really sure about what NRCS does. You don't really want to commit to too much. You want to take baby steps. So this is the program for you. Or maybe you are familiar with NRCS, but you're not ready to commit. You know that there are resource concerns that you need to address that have not been addressed prior. So with that being said, this is where we would recommend you to go ahead, apply for that well, apply for those pipelines, basically any groundbreaking activities that you know will be beneficial for your operation. The second program that I'm going to talk about is the CSP, conservation stewardship program. And this one is more so for individuals who are already doing good on the land. You've already adopted certain conservation practices and activities, and you just want to do a better job, be a better steward. This typically involves enhancing what you're already doing. And this one is set up a little bit differently in that we're more so focused on agronomic activities and not any groundbreaking activities, though you can apply for that within that, but we don't have to talk about that right now. The special thing about CSP is that it is a 5-year program. Every single year of you being enrolled in that program, you will be able to receive a minimum of $4,000, which means at the end of 5 years, you will have received $20,000 from the wisdom. All right, and it's not a bad thing because you are adapting and you are enhancing your activities on the land. Now within EQUIP, it's set up a little different. After you have complete those activities, then we'll go ahead and pay you a certain cost share percentage, up to 90%, but depending on, timing and inflation and all of that good stuff, it may be more than 90%, it may be less than 90%. But our set rate is our set rate. I would say this, we do have some pamphlets in the back. We do have our application, which was updated October of this year. And on the second page of our application, it does have the option for you, if you are considered socially disadvantaged, historically underserved. So beginner farmer, limited producer, veteran producer, you have the option of advance payment. And what this means is that if you need some help getting some of the materials to complete some of the installation, you can get up to 50% cost share prior to completion of that installation. So that's a good little tidbit. In the works for those individuals who have sort of an urban production or alternative crop operation, we do have a Working Lands for Wildlife initiative that's coming out as well. So if you would like to promote your pollinator habitat, maybe you want to have a little quill patch or whatever the case may be, squirrels, whatever, you can apply for those. If you are interested in the planting of trees, we do have a special initiative set up just for that, and you can apply for those plans in the works. I mean, other than that, basically anything that a row crop producer can sign up for, to the cover crop, the making sure that you're not using too much nutrients and putting it on the ground, because it could then tie up some nutrients that's needed for the plants to grow. Just being aware of what you're putting into the ground. Same thing as row crop, you can do it urban production. And with that, I use my time. Any questions?
So do we have to put in another application?
No, well, it's up to you. You already have an application in there, so what we typically do is just roll over. If the application has not been funded, we just roll it over to the next year and just keep ranking, keep applying till it gets in. If you do want to sign up for other initiatives that we have, then you can go ahead and put in a new application. Or we could use the same one, it's all up to you.
I'm real confused on this program, because I put in applications, then they'll tell me this, then they'll tell me something else, and nothing never happened, and I am frustrated. Nothing ever happens, they'll tell me this, and then they'll do something else, then you say, oh, you didn't have an application in on time, when you call me in and put the application in before it opens up, so I'm really frustrated with your program, because nothing happens.
So it's several different things, several different programs that we have, right? Last year we had that RCPP program, and that one was set up a little bit different. We have different times, we have different sign-up periods. Our sign-up period that just passed was from October the 21st to November the 22nd. that was specifically in this area, just for EQIP and CSP. Unfortunately, our RCPP is not going to be run this year. Now, when we signed up, it probably was maybe the RCTP was in on time, but maybe the EQIP wasn't in on time, or vice versa. Either which way, whatever we did, we were going to try to make sure that you got in to something on either side of the program, either which program it is. I think a lot of times, and I'm going to use this opportunity, and I hope that maybe our leadership is watching this, so I could read this. We have missed opportunities because our system does not work properly. And we need to work better on that. This should not be happening. We should not be in a meeting where this kind of disruption is happening. She is upset because she's not being served. And she's not being served because our system isn't working. Let's get better on that. I should not be the only one sending emails. Maybe they'll listen because you know people that have clinicians, so maybe you could have some conversations with them. But we should not be having this. There are too many individuals who have needs on their line, and those needs are not being met because we are physically incapable of going in our system and working on it because it's not functional. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, I would love to make sure that we get your name and process. Now there is a so they have the RCPP side, which is sort of a special program, and then how that works. And what I'm not clear on, did you sign up for RCPP for each of you sign up?
In the office, prior to it even becoming open, shutting the amount of things being put in, done in advance, but it'll be ready when the equipment thing came open. And then when I got ready, got called and what's going on, then I get, oh, your application wasn't put in on time. So I'm frustrated with that. How can my application not be put in time when you tell me I'm putting it in? I hate that you're taking it from me ahead of time.
So what she's talking about is we were unable to run her application because the software that we are using was not letting us be able to run the application. That is what she's.
Okay.
So that's where my frustration comes as well, is because this is not, like, we gotta get this together. I know that our leadership is working, but we have to continue to be progressive and do it in a timely manner. So now that this has not been done, who knows how this held up their operation? We should have been able to get this squared away in a timely manner, so they could have been run in our system.
Okay,
So keep the big deadline, you're saying because of technical assistance.
Technical issue, but even on the back end, I hope that you do take that information. I hope that you, KKAC, EAEC, all of y'all got together and try to have conversations so we could stop having this happen. I mean, you could talk to different counties and they're having issues with their systems as well. And again, I know that there are people behind the scenes pushing and trying to get things done, but at the same time, it should not be taking long for them to just fix up some land units. It should not.
it has more to do with the program itself. And the, I won't say artificial intelligence process.
Yes, our CPP is a little bit, yes, it's a little bit different because of what we're using, but in the same breath, like, no.
One more thing. So I was told you compete or something, but I thought that being 100% disabled veteran and a beginner farmer, that I wouldn't be in the competition thing. I mean, that's been explained to me several ways by several people, not only Ms. Benjamin, but other people in the office. So it's confusing to me. I'm just trying to get unconfused.
Well, let me say, everything that you said, from a programmatic perspective, definitely get out. One, your social disadvantage. a minority, two, you're veterans, so that puts you higher as far as priority ones on the list. Three, you say you're beginning farmer as well, so that's added point, a plus part in that. It looks like that all the areas, the categories puts her in a priority eligibility for service perspective. I think what I heard is that the application is in, you don't necessarily have to put another application in, but the system itself that processes the application, once they put into the system, it's not allowing them to process your application all the way through, one. And I guess my question would be, so how do we get beyond the system and maybe deal with it from a manual perspective? Because then once you put in the system, it has to generate the contract itself. And that contract that is generated based on the system deals with the different practices and the time frame for completing those practices within the base of the contract itself, how it's structured. But if it's not giving them anything out based on what you said you want to do as a equal applicant, until they get that out of the system, I'm assuming that's why you're not able to say, yeah, we can do a contract with you.
So at that moment, that was.
At that moment.
At that moment, yeah.
But you're already down to go to move ahead 100%.
If something don't ting up again, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Now, I would say some of these things, like, yes, sometimes the government does move slow, but it puts a strain on us. I'll have that conversation. You set me up with whoever I need to set up with, so I could talk to whoever I need to talk with.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let me just say this, as far as NRCS, because I know we talked about the conservation CSP, conservation stewardship practices. We talked about the EQIP program, and of course, what that has to offer. And of course, the special program RCPP, which is allows you really to do EQIP, through the RCPP program. So RCPP really sort of like a special program of designation, and for depends on who's up. So you're running directly from the office, not with another organization. Okay, so you're doing that's good. I like that. The other area, and I'm going to ask you to get just some information on that, because in some cases we're dealing with air property, people who have land and maximizing, looking at the other options we have with the land. It's conservation easement. You all are doing those now and signing for us.
So we do have the conservation easement program that is not done with the local office. And actually, we did have a sign up with a partnership program through KKAC. And that one will have to go to Luano, and our representative with Luano. But basically, the easement program is for you to convert maybe marginal land that's always wet all the time, into more of a habitual space for wildlife, if that is what the ground needs. So the easement programs can be indefinite. It depends on your application and how much years that you sign up for. And actually, this partnership program through KKAC, it is more geared towards small scale acreage. Specifically in our regular program, easement program, it would be folks that have hundreds of acres of land that ends up getting there.
But with the conservation easement, on one of the special programs, I think the minimum acreage is what, 20 acres now? It's 20 acres. And basically what this means, people, is that you can put your land into conservation easement, and it pays you a certain dollar amount. It could be 15 years, or it could be a permanent program. Either way. So that's the way that is.
That's it. Talk a little bit about
Yeah,
rural development, docu, briefly, because I know it's after you want.
yeah, Ms. Williams, let me know that I took up all the time for the people supposed to be. Talking. I don't mean to that people, we will, one will come back, two, I wanna make sure you all contact our office. Let's talk about USDA Rural Development Housing Program. I'm gonna talk about two primary areas, and where they offer resources for housing.
Yes.
One is the 502. The 502 program, that's for new construction if you're going to build a new home, altogether. I don't know the specific exact dollar amount, it's 300 plus $1,000 that you can get to build a new home under the 502 program. And of course, it's based on, eligibility is based on income, but it's under what they call the affordable housing program. You can do that program either as a direct loan, or you can do it with the bank, the guarantee loan. Basically, the bank makes the loan and they guarantee it up to 90%, just like the bond program works. In addition to that, if you go to the bank and you do it as a guarantee, the income eligibility areas are higher if you do it as a guarantee loan. The other area is with the 504 program. The 504 program has two areas. It has the grant side and it has the loan side. The grant side of the program, and this is basically dealing with rehabbing homes and dealing with health and safety. It may be that there's an issue around hot water, needing hot water put into the house because the hot water heater's gone out. Put a hot water heater in. It could be roofing. Okay, and because of leaking roof, you get a moisture buildup and possibly mildew or mold to build up in the house. So it can be used for that purpose. Again, health is one of the major primary areas for the grant program. It could be things that's related to electrical also that has to do with safety. You know, if you really have a situation, I know we've had experience where you're dealing with the breaker boxes. And the breaker boxes, you have a shortage taking place in the wiring and things that's outdated on the breaker boxes. And if you don't replace them, you know, you're going to eventually end up with a fire because some of the breakers are out and you're running extension cords and you're putting too much going through one outlet. So all those are issues of creating fire. So that's the $10,000 grant program under the 504. The 504 program with USDA Rural Development. The other area with the 504 in the loan, you can get up to $40,000. $40,000 for home rehab under the 504 program with USDA Rural Development. $40,000. So that's a total under the 504, you can get up to $50,000 for dealing with home rehab with USDA Rural Development. So the 504 program is both grant, 1% affordable loan at 1% interest rate, $10,000 grant, $40,000 1% loan. Then the 502 part of the housing program is up to I want to say 300. It's changed from one extent to the other, but I think it's 377,000 for new home construction. But let me say, one of the challenges in this area, what it has been in this area, and I always advise individuals, before you look at new construction, you may want to look at buying an existing home if homes are available to purchase in the area. that, you know, meet all the standards and everything at the house, because they would do, an inspection, you know, from that standpoint on the property and the property that you may want to purchase. When you build a new home in this area, a lot of time, and in most cases, after construction, the house is worth less than what the cost was for building. So that's one of the challenges in building a new home. You build a new home, you spend $300,000 or $200,000, and say you also have, I'll show the affordability even to pay the debt, pay the note. And of course, they have other subsidy that's built into that. They have subsidies built around the loan program that increase affordability within the context of the payment of the note on the home. But my point is that marketability and appraisal values in most cases, once the houses are constructed out, had conversations with bankers about this. When you're making a loan directly back out, once you finish doing that, the house is worth less than what the construction cost was for. They also have community facilities, grant and community facility loans. This is for small towns, rural towns. Those programs are available through USDA rural development. They have the business grant and loan program, rural business enterprise loan grant program. There may not be the exact name for it, but it's a loan and a grant program. If you're going to expand an existing business and create new jobs with that business operation, that's under USDA rural development as well. They have an energy program, an energy grant program. I'm not going to go into exactly how it works, but I do know it has to deal with more efficiency as it relates to energy usage. So it may be putting in some cases they deal with solar panels, and other cases they're dealing with certain type of older, outdated equipment that's not as efficient as the newer, updated equipment, even with heating and cooling systems, as an example. But that's their energy program, and that also is through USDA rural development. The housing program is one that is always a big question on. I know there's a big need all throughout eastern Arkansas. So I encourage individuals to go to the office and to apply for the program. People, if you don't apply, you don't know. And the reason, I'm gonna tell you the reason I say this. Just like it was with 2007, I've listened to farm service agents and all others they speak. And dealing with that, but whatever the challenges are, there's a challenge in life, period. If you don't apply, you won't know. And you definitely will not get it. Under the 2007 program, the application for discrimination financial assistance, a lot of folks just didn't apply because they didn't believe it. Then when the checks started being delivered, then you start getting calls and say, well, I didn't know and I didn't hear about it. I didn't get the right information. I didn't understand. If you do not apply, then one thing is for sure, you will not reap the benefits of the program that's available to you. That's a definite. So you have to apply. The other thing is with Farm Service Agency and with all the agencies, sometimes you go in, they deal with the system, go through the process. You still have other steps. If you say, well, I didn't get approved. You have one process with, say, reconsideration, and we work with individuals on that we can go through a reconsideration process to really look at it and see what went wrong here and what do we do to make the situation better where this application can possibly get approved. That's a reconsideration if the application is denied. But if you don't make the application, be it for the loan assistance from Farm Service Agency, The housing loans, our grant program under USDA, rural development, are the applications for services with USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service as well. If you don't apply, one thing is 100% sure, you will not get the benefits of the program. Nothing will happen. Air property is a challenge in doing housing in a lot of cases that we run into. We have a family member who lives in the home improvements are needed, and because the house or the deed is not in their name, it's still in their parents' name or their grandparents' name, then they cannot access these resources that I'm talking about. Neither the loan or the grant program for doing rehab on the program. So that $50,000, 1% loan, and $40,000, $10,000 grant. If it's their property, you're gonna have title ownership to that property. So I just encourage individuals who are in that situation, and individuals, and you may have a family member that's living in the household, it is in the best interest even of all the family members to get the home into one individual's name. Deed to interest over to them. I finished up one here not too long ago. Believe it or not, all the family members agreed. That family member, sibling had been living in the house for a number of years after the parents passed, and they deeded that interest over to that particular person, and they were able to access the resources to do what was needed on the property, on rehabbing the home and applying for those resources. But those are basically the programs with USDA rural development. I'm going to say one of the things, and I'm going to do two things. And one is make the rural development my closing point. If you're heir to land or you own land outright yourself, one of the things that was mentioned by the attorney are other ways of how land is lost. Adverse possession. Had a case last year. Individual had 160 acres of land. They lost 80 acres of it by way of adverse possession. This was the only child, and when the parents passed, that person decided to get married and moved out of state. Had the land leased out, and thinking that the one individual that was farming the land, and they were actually only operating or farming 80 acres of the land, not the whole 160 acres, because the adjoining landowner was farming the other 80 acres unbeknown to the property owner, one. And so it was just that 80 acres, all one section that individual actually operated. Well, the time period, statute of limitations is 7 years. That person had operated that 80 acres of land for more than 7 years. And the owner of the property decided she wanted to sell it because another landowner who wanted to buy it, the whole 160 acres, and he had offered a very good price for it on a per acre basis. In the process of him having to surveyed off the whole 160 acres, the other landowner said he was over the line. He said he wasn't over the line. This is the true story, people. So when he went to deal with the buyer was going to deal with it and notify the owner of the issue he was having, that individual who had been operating half of the land filed adverse possession, quick claim deed, and ended up owning 80 acres of 160 acres. True story. True story. That happened. Now, of course, they came to us with an after the fact situation, and of course, yeah, it was a permanent situation. So knowing your land, you have responsibility to the landowner. One, making sure the taxes are paid. The other is to make sure you know what's taking place on your land. So people will take your land. And if they have a fence around it, Oh, another case where people have been walking on the land for a period of time. This is more in a more of a city area. But they had been using the property for walking and jogging on for a number of years openly and everything else like it was their property. And mowing on the land and all that. People didn't live in the area. Well, they decided they want to sell the property. Pretty sizable piece of property, 4 or 5 acres in the city area. But they had used that property like it was theirs for more than 7 years. But they went to sell the property, thinking they could sell the property, get a good price for it. Same thing occurred, adverse possession. That was how they've been using the land. They've been using it as a place in the area for walking and exercising and things of that nature. As their own property, they end up owning the land. So yeah.
Just to underscore, just to emphasize, I just want to emphasize that point you're making is extremely important. To show you how long I've been practicing law 40 years ago, it wasn't 7 years. It was 21 years where you had to be encroaching on somebody else's property. You had to be utilizing the property. They had to be aware of it, that you were encroaching on. They did nothing to stop you. And it took that many years for them to achieve adverse possession. And now you're telling me it can happen in as short as 7 years. People better wake up. You better know what you own. You better know what you own. You better utilize what you own. The state is interested in one thing only. They're interested in collecting the correct taxes on the property, but they're also interested in you utilizing your property. Use the property, either for farming, construction, house. You better be using your property, or the state is going to find somebody else who is going to use your property. That's all.
And if somebody else is using your property, make sure you have a lease agreement with them. So, oh, it's okay, you can use that purpose. I'm gonna write you a lease agreement, I'm gonna give it to you for a long period of time, a number of years. It's a year-by-year basis, whichever. By legally, by way within a notification of 30 days or more, I can contact you and let you know that I'm gonna discontinue the lease. If you want to discontinue use of it, you notify me within 30 days and we can cancel the lease agreement of this arrangement we have. But make sure you have a legal arrangement on the land, know what's taking place on your property. But no, that's the other area. And again, people, if you don't apply, you definitely will not receive the benefit of any of the resources that's available. Can it be challenging sometimes? The application assistance for the financial assistance for discrimination, because the maximum payment was, $500,000. And a lot of people got $500,000. Was $500,000. And a lot of people position was, well, I don't believe that's gonna happen with that. I don't see that being real, where you're gonna be able to get anything on something that happened 20 years ago to me, 10 years or 50, 40 years ago, whichever. But again, was real. Those who did not apply, one thing is that they did not receive any financial assistance for discrimination of things that had occurred to them in this process. Now, again, I'm talking about years back. USDA, it can be challenging sometimes dealing with program service delivery. I'm gonna say sometimes, a lot of times. It is challenging to deal with program service delivery. But even in that process, it can be challenging both for the recipient and it can be challenging also for the USDA staff people in dealing within the context of the system to make sure that these program services are delivered. But one thing's for sure, you can't give up. You can't give up and continue to work through the process. All the areas that we've talked about here today, Arkansas Land and Community Development Corporation offer and provide technical assistance to access those services, both with natural resource conservation services, in developing the application for submission, as well as the loan business package with Farm Service Agency. We've been doing it for a long time with our program service area, our program service area has. And the same thing is for the housing. We have a housing division and housing staff that work with individuals for accessing resources for housing on the 502 and 504 program. And we do the same thing for the loan business packaging for Farm Service Agency, as well as working through the process on the program side with the information that is required to access and to get a farm number with USDA Farm Service Agency. If we're not doing it directly back in the field, and we're not here in person, you can contact the office. Michael Tucker, he's our IT person here and our farm advisor, and just helping everybody, in the process. But Michael Tucker, if you contact the office, we can set up if you have access to computers and everything, we will set up a Zoom link and send the link to you and to the office, a person in the office that you feel we need to have some direct communication with us. You're trying to do, want to do as relates to accessing their resources and the application process. So sometimes it's just better everybody be looking at everybody. Not across the table, but you see them, they see you, and we are there and we'll work through the process with you. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, when you do the application for the 502, how long will it take to hear back from your application, whether the application been received? Because my uncle has not heard back from his application, and that's been like since September. He hasn't even heard that it has been received or anything.
I tell you what, if you haven't got anything and it's been that long period of time, get with us. We need to send a letter to USDA Rural Development, letting them know that you submitted the application at this point in time period, and you got no response on the application. Because you should have, basically the same time frame that FSA had given, they go through the process and try to do it within a 7-day time period review and get back with you. But I think they have up to 30 days to respond to that application, let you know the status of it. And it's either 30 days or 45 days, one of the two. But if it's something like it was in September, yeah, that definitely should have been a response on that application. But if you would get with us on that, and we can work with you in developing a letter to notify them, or if you would send a letter to them, mail a letter to them, send it certified. Do not send it regular mail. Send a letter directly to USDA Rural Development by certified mail, notifying them that you had submitted an application and you have received no response to that application and the date and time when it was submitted. And if you do that, and
well, I don't know the day and time they submitted, because Ms. Crockett is the one that submitted the application.
Oh, she submitted the application?
Yes.
Are you sure it's been submitted?
That's the question.
Now that's my old staff, right? Well, let me ask, I will ask her about that, because see, the question is whether the application has been submitted. Then next thing, I'll ask Ms. Crockett, has the application been submitted, or that's some additional information? We had a meeting on that, and we had asked individual, we could do one of two things. One, you have to have, was this for a building house or rehab?
It was for building. I was at those meetings. I was at those meetings. I was at all those meetings, and as a matter of fact, Mrs. Crockett was supposed to have submitted it for the meeting that was on the 30th. That meeting on the 3rd of September, she was supposed to have submitted my uncle's application before that, because she was waiting to collect all of the applications on the 30th on that meeting, and that meeting too. But my uncle's was supposed to be submitted before that, because she had all the information.
I think what possibly happened on that, we talked to everybody about the process of possibly one, advertising to make it more cost effective for everybody. But you have to get the bids and deal with the contractor who's going to do the construction and everything on it. And so We were waiting to get a response from everybody who all want to participate with us providing a notice that these many homes to be renovated or constructed, and for them to put a bid in to see what they would bid to either construct the house, the new construction, and the renovation cost. We've done it in the past, and it was normally a lot more cost effective, a lot cheaper when the person was doing 5 houses, say 3 renovations and 2 new constructions versus just doing 1 house on renovation over here and then another house over here and dealing with the new construction. That is what we had proposed in that process and wanted to hear back from everybody. Now, she did mention that to me the other week that she had not gotten a response from individuals. So what we'll do on that is just make sure we go ahead, and you just want to go ahead and get your application in. You just want to go ahead and get your application in, filed, right?
I mean, I don't know if it's filed, that's what.
No, I understand. I'm saying, if she was want to put it into the group and waiting on everyone in the group say yes, they want to. So you're saying you don't want to be in the group, you just want to get yours filed and you'll do it as an individual.
When you finish the meeting, I'm gonna let you see his house and I'm gonna let you decide, because I got pictures.
Okay, well, it sounds like she want to do this big.
Okay, what's his name? The application.
We can get with that in the meeting.
We'll get with you.
Yeah, but we'll get the name and everything. Matter of fact, I will give her a call while I'm here so we can talk about that. Okay?
Okay. All right.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much. This has been very engaging. I've enjoyed it. And thank those who were online and people from the attorney out of Chicago. Participating with us on this. Thank you very much.
Make sure you do an intake form and evaluation form. All right. Thank you. Have a safe one.